Premier, on Friday you testified to the hotel quarantine inquiry that you had leaving National Cabinet. You heard no expectation of Defence Force support in the hotel quarantine scheme. Yet at your press conference on March 27, when a journalist asked, quarantine hotel rooms, how will that work? Will there be guards on the doors stopping? You responded, we'll utilise private security, we'll also utilise members of Victoria Police, and I'm very grateful to the Prime Minister for his offer of support from the Australian Defence Force. Why did you mislead the inquiry?
Well, I didn't, because you omitted a very important word, extensive support. I had no expectation whatsoever of extensive support coming to us from the ADF. That is what I took away from the National Cabinet meeting in very plain and clear terms. I fully acknowledge that there would be in my judgment, a very different arrangement in New South Wales. I detailed why that was the case yesterday. I'll go through it again for you, just for completeness sake. One, cruise ships. Ruby Princess was literally happening at that time. The number of cruise ships, I think Sydney Harbour was rather full at the time, with cruise ships that have been redirected from across other ports. And of course, there's not the insubstantial issue of more international flights going into Sydney than Melbourne. This is not a point of criticism, either of New South Wales or the Australian Defence Force or the PM. If you read the statement that you've partially quoted from, you'll see that there is further reference in my statement, which is a true and correct statement in every way, where I made it very clear that the Prime Minister, at his press conference after the National Cabinet meeting, advanced a more generous position. I acknowledge that, but it did not change any expectations I had about ADF support in the establishment of the program. It was no one had any expectation that there would be extensive support. That is what I've said, because they are the facts of these matters.
And just on the calls for your resignation, do you think those calls are fair?
It's not a matter for me to judge it. I've answered the question. I don't run from problems. That's not who I am. This is a difficult job, but it's a job that has to be done, and I'm determined to get this job done. But I need Victorians to work with me, and I'm so proud that they are. The vast majority of Victorians are focused on beating this thing. So I think that answers your question.
In terms of announcements that you've made regarding sole traders and businesses and all the grants in general.
I'm coming back on the painters. I can't actually answer that, I'm afraid.
My uncle will be very appreciative.
Very good. I'll come back just for the purposes of your uncle, Simon.
Are we at the end of, I guess, relief packages, or will there be more to announce, not including, future
Sure.
infrastructure and stuff?
Look, I can't, Alex, say that we wouldn't rule that out. I'm not foreshadowing that there is one. There's not one that's in development at the moment, for instance. But we'll always be guided by circumstances, and we have been to this point. The other point I'd make is that we've got a budget coming up, and it will be truly unprecedented in terms of the size and scale of investment that we make. And in my judgment, many businesses, most businesses, certainly individual workers and their families, the best form of assistance is to have them back at work and earning. And there's a big part to that. We can underpin demand. That's exactly what we'll do to get the place really firing again, all cylinders. And then beyond that, there's issues of tailored practical support to deal with hardship. And then there's also supports around training, job placement, all of those things. So it'll be a very comprehensive package. That's still a little bit off, but I couldn't rule out that there'll be some further support of different kinds once we get to that point.